Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something that just seems timeless, doesn't it? This mystery of what's up there in our skies.
It really does. We all love a good mystery, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it hints at, other worlds, strange lights.
Absolutely. And UFOs, unidentified flying objects, they've been fueling stories and, frankly, some wild theories for decades. But what if? What if a lot of it isn't quite so mysterious?
It's a powerful fascination, isn't it? That pull towards the unknown. It creates these really compelling stories that, well, they take hold. Sometimes it gets hard to tell observation from maybe wishful thinking.
Exactly. Which brings us right to our mission for this deep dive. We're looking into UFO skepticism
Right.
and specifically focusing on Philip J. Klass, a really key figure, controversial, definitely.
Absolutely. Ufology Satan to some people because he was just relentless in his debunking.
But others saw him as this, tireless searcher for actual truth. So our goal is to unpack his detective work. It was meticulous, sometimes pretty surprising, and it challenged huge UFO claims, Roswell especially.
And we want to look at his ufological principles, this logical framework he used. It often turned unidentified into, well, identified through sheer analysis.
Right. So for sources today, we've got quite a stack. Reviews of Klass's books, Demolishing the Roswell Alien Myth, The Real Roswell Crash Saucer Cover-Up.
Yeah, plus excerpts from his newsletter, the Skeptic's UFO newsletter, SUN, and some biographical stuff on Klass, and also on psychologist Robert Baker, plus details on those principles and even his famous UFO curse.
It's a lot to get into. Should give us a good picture.
Definitely.
Okay, let's start with Klass himself. Philip J. Klass. He wasn't just, thinking about this from his armchair. He was an electrical engineer.
Right, and a senior avionics editor for Aviation Week and Space Technology. That's a serious publication.
It gave him deep insight into aviation, defense systems, all the stuff flying around up there.
No doubt about it. His job, his background in avionics, he's actually credited with coining that term avionics.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
Yeah, it gave him this really unique way of looking at things, shaped his whole approach to UFO cases, super rigorous, almost like a lawyer arguing a case.
Like presenting evidence to a jury.
Exactly. Precision like an engineer.
Mm.
And he had this worldwide reputation in aerospace, which, adds weight.
He really was a force, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Became this major adversary for the UFO believers. Skeptical Inquirer put him, number 5 on their list of top 20th century skeptics?
That's right. And he famously put his money where his mouth was, that $10,000 agreement.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that again.
He'd pay 10 grand if someone provided definite proof of an alien landing confirmed by the National Academy of Sciences. Or, an alien actually shows up on TV.
Okay. But there was a catch.
Big catch. The person making the claim had to pay Klass $250 a year if the proof didn't materialize.
Huh. And how many people took him up on that long term?
Well, tellingly, nobody stayed current for very long. It was his way of showing that maybe even the most passionate believers didn't truly believe enough to risk their own cash year after year.
Brilliant point. Really makes you think about conviction versus, actual evidence.
Mm-hmm. And Klass himself, he said in a PBS Nova interview, after nearly 30 years of investigating all these famous cases, he never found a single one he couldn't explain in, quote, down-to-earth prosaic terms.
30 years! That's dedication. And that led him to write down his methods, right? The UFOlogical Principles.
Exactly. He formalized his approach. And honestly, these principles are insightful way beyond UFOs. They're great for looking at any kind of unusual claim. What's one that really jumps out at you?
For me, it's got to be Principle 1, the one about human perception. Basically, even honest, smart people can be wildly wrong describing something brief, unexpected, unfamiliar.
Yes. That's so fundamental.
It's not just about aliens, is it? It feels like a basic truth for any kind of breaking news, any sensational event. What does it tell us about trusting our first impressions?
It's huge. Our brains try to make sense of things fast, but when something's totally new or startling, that speed can lead to big mistakes. What you think you saw might not be what happened at all. And his Principle 5 builds right on that. You just can't accurately guess the distance or the size or the altitude of some weird object in the sky unless it's right next to something familiar like a building or a known plane. Think how often we misjudge things at night.
Yeah, totally. Then there's Principle 7. This one feels really relevant today when you're figuring out if something's a hoax. Rely on physical evidence or the lack of it, not on whether the person seems nice or trustworthy.
Absolutely critical. It's about the what, not the who. Evidence first.
And Principle 10 just, well, cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? A lot of UFO cases seem baffling just because the investigators didn't put in enough rigorous effort.
Yep. It's a call for really digging in, doing the hard work, which is exactly what Klass did.
And his commitment to that rigorous effort, it really shines through in his work on Roswell. That's the big one, isn't it? The cornerstone for so many people.
Yeah.
How did he approach that?
Roswell, yeah. 1947. The whole idea of crash saucers, government cover-ups, it pretty much starts there for modern ufology. Klass wrote a whole book, The Real Roswell Crash Saucer Cover-Up, called his case against the alien myth devastating.
So what was his take? What really happened?
Well, his work, and later Air Force investigations too, pointed to something, well, mundane, really. Debris from a weather balloon, maybe some radar targets mixed in.
Okay.
Later, that got more specific. Project Mogul, it was this top-secret high-altitude balloon project the U.S. was running, trying to listen for Soviet nuclear tests using sensitive microphones carried way up high.
So a military secret, yes, but a human secret, not alien.
Exactly. But the Roswell legend, it really took off decades later, fueled by all these witness accounts. People started coming forward years and years after 1947.
And what did Klass find when he looked into those accounts? Was there a pattern?
A big pattern. Inconsistency. People coming forward decades later, their stories were often all over the place. How many alien bodies? 3 living, 1 dead. Details just didn't line up. Take Glenn Dennis, the mortician. His story about a missing nurse, Naomi Marie Self, who supposedly saw an alien autopsy. Hugely famous part of the lore.
Right, I've heard that one.
Klass and other researchers like Carl Flock and Kevin Randall later, they dug into it meticulously. Found really strong evidence this nurse probably never existed.
Wow. That pulls a major thread out of the story.
It really does. And it wasn't the only one. Gerald Anderson's story, he claimed his family found the crash, saw a professor trying to talk to a live alien.
The professor denied it.
Flat out denied being there. And Klass pointed out Anderson wouldn't let anyone check his high school transcripts to see if he'd even taken the anthropology class he mentioned, taught by that same professor at his school. Things just didn't add up under scrutiny.
It starts to sound less like a solid narrative and more like stories evolving over time.
That's a good way to put it. And it wasn't just individual memories. You even had prominent Roswell authors, Stanton Friedman, William Moore, Kevin Randall. They actually changed the date the rancher, Brazel, brought the debris into town.
Changed the date?
Yeah.
Why?
They moved it from Monday, July 7th, which was the real day, back to Sunday the 6th. Apparently to make some conflicting witness stories fit together better. That kind of thing really damages credibility.
You'd think so, changing facts to fit the narrative.
And then there's the money angle.
Yeah.
One witness, Jim Ragsdale, his story changed quite a bit. He even moved the supposed impact site by 50 miles. Then he sold exclusive rights to his story to the Roswell UFO Museum for monetary inducements.
So back to Klass's Principle 7. Follow the evidence, not the endorsements, especially if cash is changing hands.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about the physical proof? The Majestic 12 documents, weren't they supposed to be the smoking gun?
They were presented that way, yes.
Yeah.
Alleged top-secret papers about a secret panel, MJ-12, investigating Roswell. Klass did some absolute crucial work debunking these.
What was the key finding?
The absolute linchpin was his signature. President Truman's supposed signature on an MJ-12 memo dated September 24th, 1947. Klass found it was identical pixel for pixel, including an accidental little skid mark to a signature on a totally unrelated authentic letter Truman sent to Vannevar Bush on October 1st, 1947.
Identical. So
I had to be a photocopy, pasted onto the MJ-12 document, not an original signature. That blows a massive hole in its authenticity right there.
a photocopy with the same tiny flaw. That's amazing detective work. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, the typewriter. That supposedly 1947 memo, it was typed on a Smith Corona model that didn't even exist until 1963.
Anachronisms like that, they're hard to explain away if it's real.
Very hard. The Air Force looked into it extensively, checked with all sorts of federal agencies. Their conclusion, it was a forgery, stamped it, not a U.S. government document. No agency had any record of MJ-12 ever existing.
So the whole MJ-12 thing seems pretty definitively debunked.
Based on this evidence, yes. Even later alleged MJ-12 documents had huge internal problems. Reports dated years after the group supposedly formed, listing different chairmen, different numbers of alien bodies, and crash sites. Just inconsistencies everywhere.
So if the cover-up isn't really about hiding crashed aliens, what did Klass think the real cover-up was?
He argued the real ongoing cover-up was by, well, the entertainment industry. Producers, authors, filmmakers, People making money by keeping the myth alive.
Interesting. Perpetuating the story itself is the cover-up?
That was his argument. And remember, his job at Aviation Week in Space Technology, that magazine was nicknamed Aviation Leak because they published so much sensitive inside stuff.
Right, he had access.
High-level access. And Klass personally pledged, if I ever found out that there was anything to the claims about a secret government UFO project, I'd write it up for Aviation Week. He never did. Never found that evidence. That's pretty telling from someone in his position.
Okay, so Klass dismantled the physical evidence, the documents, the testimony around Roswell. But what about those really personal accounts? Abduction stories, things people feel really intensely. How did skeptics like Klass approach that side of things?
That's a crucial area. Beyond just looking at debris or photos, Klass and other skeptics definitely explored psychological explanations. Robert Baker, the psychologist we mentioned.
Yeah.
He wrote this essay, No Aliens, No Abductions. And he talked about things like sleep paralysis, those vivid waking dreams you can have sometimes, how they could feel like real otherworldly visitations.
Right, like you're awake but can't move, maybe see or feel strange things.
Exactly. And Baker argued that if you combine those natural experiences with, say, hypnosis sessions trying to recover memories, well, the brain can start filling in blanks, creating what he called confabulations.
False memories, essentially. Vivid, but not real.
Pretty much. Your brain makes up details to create a coherent story, especially under suggestion. Baker saw links not just to UFO abductions, but also things like the satanic panic, false memories of abuse, phenomena where memory gets distorted.
And this ties into the idea of a fantasy-prone personality.
It often aligns, yeah. Some research suggests people who report these kinds of experiences might score higher on scales measuring fantasy proneness.
Yeah.
It offers a possible explanation rooted in psychology, not aliens.
Makes sense. But it's complex, right? Not everyone agreed. What about someone like John Mack?
Right, Dr. John Mack at Harvard. He worked with abductees, used hypnosis too, but came to very different conclusions. He became persuaded, as he put it, that the abduction experiences were real. He even talked about people having a dual identity, human and alien.
That sounds far out.
It was controversial. Mack saw it as needing to open up our structures of reality. He pointed to physical evidence, too, like unexplained scars, alleged implants, though he called it mostly corroborative.
And Harvard investigated him for it.
They did. His lawyer argued it was about academic freedom. It really highlights that deep conflict between mainstream science and these claims that push way beyond accepted boundaries.
That tension seems central to the whole UFO topic.
Definitely. And you see Klass applying his skeptical lens, not just to huge cases like Roswell, but also smaller, more localized ones that got a lot of attention, like those Gulf Breeze photos.
Yeah, the Florida case with the Polaroid pictures.
That's the one. Ed and Francis Walters took these photos of a craft-like thing. But Klass and others found major issues. The camera was an old Polaroid.
And those could do double exposures pretty easily, right?
Very easily.
Yeah.
Walters claimed he'd used the camera for 17 years, but didn't know about that feature, which seems unlikely.
So how did they test it?
An investigator, Dr. Bruce Maccabee, actually borrowed Walters' own camera, went out, used a street lamp, and made a double exposure photo that looked remarkably UFO-like.
And showed it to Walters.
Yep. Apparently, Walters thought Maccabee's fake photo was real at first. Didn't seem to grasp how the double exposure worked. That really cast doubt on his original pictures.
And didn't that case cause splits even among UFO believers?
It did. Some investigators in MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, initially backed the case. But other prominent pro-UFO guys, Wally Smith and Bob Boyd, they got kicked out of MUFON because they called it a hoax, pointed to disturbing discrepancies.
Wow. Internal conflict like that tells you something.
It does. Even the National Enquirer lost interest after a NASA expert couldn't verify the photos. And Walter's own stories got stranger blue beams, aliens speaking Spanish, being shown pictures of nude women.
Yeah.
It just got less credible over time.
Okay, so that connects back to the bigger picture of government cover-ups. People often point to classified documents as proof. What did Klass find there, especially with the NSA files?
Right, the National Security Agency. For years, they refused to release certain UFO documents from the 50s, 60s, 70s, fueling speculation, of course.
But when they were finally declassified?
Turned out the secrecy wasn't about hiding aliens, it was about hiding spying. Specifically, the U.S. was eavesdropping on Soviet air defense radar communications. Protecting those intelligence methods was the priority.
So the UFOs in those intercepted Soviet reports were what?
Even just balloons. The Soviets used balloons to test their radar systems, check if operators were alert. The NSA analysts reading these intercepts even wrote notes like, probably a balloon on the reports.
So, mundane explanations again. But how did people like Stanton Friedman use these documents?
Ah, Friedman. He became famous for showing slides of these NSA documents, heavily blacked out with markers, claimed it proved a cosmic Watergate, a massive cover-up.
But the blackouts were just hiding the spying details.
Exactly. They were redacting sensitive communications intelligence, COMINT, details how the U.S. intercepted foreign signals. Friedman knew this, or certainly should have, but he presented it to audiences as if they were hiding alien secrets. A major misrepresentation.
That's quite misleading.
It gets better. One of the heavily redacted reports Friedman often used, claiming a UFO shot down Cuban fighter jets, turned out to be totally bogus. The NSA had actually gotten a copy of that fake report indirectly from Friedman's own files originally. They labeled it fictitious.
Wow. Talk about circular reporting. The skeptic debunking the believer using the believer's own questionable source.
It really highlights how critical context and verification are, especially with classified or seemingly official documents.
So wrapping this up, Philip J. Klass, clearly a complex figure, tireless, maybe abrasive to some, but undeniably influential.
Absolutely. His engineering mindset, that skeptical rigor, it left a huge mark on how UFO phenomena are investigated, or at least how they should be.
His legacy is really about that persistent questioning, isn't it? Always looking for the down-to-earth explanation first.
Definitely. And he left behind something pretty memorable, too. His so-called UFO curse for his critics.
Oh, right. Remind us how that goes. It's quite something.
He basically said, upon his death in 2005, no matter how long you live, you will never know any more about UFOs than you know today. You will never know any more about what UFOs really are or where they come from. You will never know any more about what the U.S. government really knows. As you lie on your own deathbed, you will be as mystified about UFOs as you are today, and you will remember this curse.
Oof. That's quite the parting shot.
It really is. It kind of perfectly captures the whole challenge, doesn't it? Is ufology about some deep, hidden truth we can't quite grasp? Or is it a powerful reminder of how critical thinking has to fight against really compelling stories that just lack solid proof?
It makes you think, what does it really mean to be well-informed when you're dealing with these incredible claims, knowing how flawed our own perception and memory can be?
A question worth pondering. Maybe something for you to think about next time you look up at the night sky. Maybe with a slightly more skeptical eye.
Definitely food for thought. Until next time, keep digging deeper.
And stay curious.